Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our virtual town hall series. I'm Ty Stockton. I'm the communications manager for the Department of Workforce Services. I'm having trouble with my Zoom camera here. I apologize for the fumbling. This virtual town hall series is resources for employers. So we'll give you information that you guys can use to help your employees and your businesses, and try to make sure that everybody has the resources they need during this pandemic. Before we begin, I'd like to let you know that we are recording this, and I'll have the recording of this seminar up on our website at wyomingworkforce.org as soon as possible after we're done here. It does take a couple hours for us to process the video and then to get it uploaded to the site. But if you go back to where you, most of you found the link to this webinar on our homepage. I'm going to show you where to go here to find that. If you go, if you go to the homepage, that virtual town hall, it's the first banner. Click on that, and then the recording of this town hall meeting will be on that page. We also have all the questions that are asked today and the answers to those, as well as the PowerPoints we'll show you today. We'll email those to you, as well as post those on the website. And they may not be on that virtual town hall page anymore. They may be on our resources page, which is one of the other two banners that you can click on that front page of the website. And again, that website is wyomingworkforce.org. We'll get to as many of the questions that you have, if you ask them, as we can. Use that Q&A button down at the bottom of the screen. It's down right in the middle of the screen at the bottom. It says Q&A. If you click on that, it'll open up a little text box. You can type your questions in there, and those questions will come to us, and we'll try to make sure we get to as many of those questions as we can throughout today's presentation. Rest assured, though, that if we don't get to all your questions, they will be answered offline and posted on the website and sent to you using the email that you used to register. Today, we've got representatives from our unemployment insurance division, as well as Wyoming OSHA, to give you information and answer your questions about the options available to you and your employees during this pandemic. We're also going to include information about the additional aid made possible by the CARES Act and other federal legislation. And to get us started, we've got Christina West, and she's our Employment and Training Deputy Administrator for the Department of Workforce Services. She's here to talk to you about the workforce centers in your area and the help you can get from those centers. So Christina, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ty. Thanks for having me here and allowing me to share a little bit about our business services at the Workforce Center. I know that this is probably not what's hot on your mind, or it's not the main focus right now. However, I think it's really important to note that the workforce centers are here to help you, whether in good times or bad times, whether you're growing your business, it's a brand new business, or even in these difficult times where you're seeing layoffs and closures. And so my presentation is meant to be short, and Ty, you can go ahead and click to the next screen. My presentation is meant to be short. It's meant to just be a super high level focus on the services that we can provide, and keep in mind some of these services are not what you need right now. They're not applicable right now, but we want you to know that they're available. And so I'm gonna just dive right in and keep this short so that we can get to all those hot topics and things that are most important to you currently. So next slide, please. This slide just touches on the services that we do offer, or business services that we do offer at the workforce centers. We're not going to look at all of them in detail, but I will touch base on them quickly. Labor market research, we can work with you as a business, sit down and collect some information regarding salaries, economic trends. We can look at your job descriptions, and we can look at your pay and really ensure that it's aligned with the market and give you feedback. So it's just collecting that information and sharing that with you. Education services, we do have free education services through our Wyoming at Work labor market exchange system. So if you have an employee that's struggling in a particular area, whether that's now or in the future, you could recommend some of these free education services. It could be things on soft skills. If you have someone struggling with customer service, they could take a class and try to make some improvements. They have other classes such as Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Access. So again, if during this time where a person may be laid off, they could take some of these classes to strengthen some of their skills so that they can better help your business in the future. The Wyoming at Work online services, that again is our labor exchange system that's utilized by job seekers and employers. We're going to spend some time talking about those services within our Wyoming at Work system. We're really hoping that you register and use that service to post jobs and to recruit. That's the next check mark. We do help with employee recruitment and screening, writing job descriptions, interviewing if that's something you're interested in. We also have veteran services, and when working with businesses, we really know that veterans have just strong work ethic. They have a lot of adaptable skills. And so we love to talk to businesses about the benefits of hiring veterans. We will talk today a little bit about existing and new employee training. We also have the work opportunity tax incentives under Department of Workforce Services. And that's a federal tax credit available to employers for hiring individuals that are in a certain target group that have consistently faced significant barriers to employment. So we're not going to talk about that a lot today just because there's other more important topics, I guess, but if you're interested in learning more about that, please contact your workforce center. Same with the federal bonding program. This is a program that we have available under Department of Workforce Services, and it assists offenders or other at-risk persons with questionable backgrounds to secure employment. And there are some big benefits to you as an employer, to a business. All the coverage is offered at no cost. So again, if that's something that's important to you or you could see a benefit, please reach out to us. And the last bullet point, we are going to spend some time talking about reduction in force and business closures. Next slide, please. We know that you as a business, you're facing some challenging times. This is really what I call uncharted territory. And we just want to be here to support you along the way. Next slide. This really leads to what's been happening due to COVID. As you all know better than I, lots of businesses are closing. There's been a reduction in force due to the governor's orders. And so we just want to talk about some of those immediate services that we could provide. Next slide. This really leads us to those rapid responses that we can offer immediately once you know that your business is going to need to lay off or close temporarily or permanently. And really with these rapid responses, we want to go out and just take a real proactive approach. We want to talk to you about your needs. We want to design a strategy. We really want to be there to help you through this layoff. Now, our folks may not have all the answers, but we hope that they can refer you or reach out to the appropriate people during this rapid response. Normally with our rapid responses, we want to get out to the business. We want to meet with you in person. We want to hand deliver packets to your people, to your employees. However, due to COVID, we have used more of a virtual approach. So when you reach out to the centers, you know, they're calling you on the phone and they're emailing you packets of information just to make sure that we're following those social distancing guidelines. Next slide, please. What's the real benefit to the rapid response, or why the rapid response? There's several benefits to the employer, to you as the business, as well as to the worker. So to the employer, one, it just shows that quick response to transition to what do we need during this time? What can we help you with as the business? It's also about just kind of coordinating, making sure that you've thought about everything during this stressful time and being a resource for you. It's also offering free services to your worker, to your employees. It's ensuring that you have all the information you need if you're filing like a warn notice and you're meeting all those requirements. And also it's about improvement on morale. The staff know, oh, they're really thinking about us and what's our best interest. And it really puts a good image out there for you and controls that rumor mill. To the actual worker or the employee, as you can see, it gets them some immediate services. It lets them know what's available at the workforce center, and it immediately lets them know about unemployment insurance. Next slide, please. So again, some of these slides we're looking at, they may not be beneficial currently or right now. You might not utilize these services. But again, this is just a quick snapshot of what's available when it's needed. So we really want to focus on how can we help you find the correct person for the jobs that you have available. Next slide, please. The workforce centers really can help you find qualified employees. That's our focus. Next slide. We offer the employers, you, the business, the ability to register in Wyoming at Work, the ability to list or post all of your jobs, all of your openings. We will work with you and allow you to examine the labor pool, who's looking for what jobs. And that's all done through our website and through our services. Job fairs. The workforce centers really strive to help set up job fairs, to arrange these job fairs. We want to work together with you as the business. We want to know, what positions you have available so that we can really set up a structured job fair. We want to set up the when it's going to be, where it's going to be, and invite the businesses and invite all the job seekers. Due to COVID, unfortunately, we've had to suspend our traditional job fairs. We haven't been able to continue doing that, and there hasn't been that high need. However, we are looking at some virtual job fair platforms, and we hope to be able to roll out some of those options for those places that are still currently hiring due to their business and those needs. Next slide. We also have just meeting rooms available. We have resources at the workforce centers, such as interview rooms, training rooms, meeting rooms. So if those are things that you don't have available in your business, know that they're available at the workforce centers. Next slide. I talked briefly about Wyoming at Work. I just want to reiterate that that's our labor market exchange system, and it's offered at no cost to you as a business as well as to our job seekers. Next slide. This is what the homepage looks like, and it's just wyomingatwork.com. If you're not registered, you would click on the not registered button. If you are registered, you would enter your username and your password to sign in. Next slide. So the benefits of registering in Wyoming at Work and using some of our business services tools. One, you are just going to get a larger applicant pool. You're going to see all the people that are possibly looking for work. You can utilize our business representatives to help you screen, to help you narrow your search if that's something you're interested in. You also can search through our system for specific candidates. So if you know your job requires that you have open, requires a certain degree, requires certain skills, instead of going through several resumes, you could narrow the search and just look for certain candidates. So that's something that you could utilize. And that also goes back to our job matching services. And I think I talked briefly about that at the beginning. There are a lot of other tools you can utilize. The business representatives, they can send out mass mailings. They can send out a lot of things electronically to really get your job posting out there. So I've talked about job matching. We'll move Nick to the next slide. We also have training services. Training services fall under our WIOA, or Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And so I'm going to go ahead and talk about that, and then kind of talk about how you could utilize that now and going forward. So the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, it's a federally funded program, and there are eligibility requirements to that. Their purpose of the WIOA, or Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, is really to help individuals maintain employment or obtain employment. And we'll talk about that as we go through these slides. Services provided, they're very individualized. So this would be for your employees. It's based on their needs. It's based on their goals. We can provide assessments, aptitudes, abilities, interests, assessments. We can develop plans, and we do develop plans with goals and objectives. We provide ongoing career counseling and guidance for the individuals. We can provide support services when needed, and we also can provide training. So what does this look like for your employees? If you are hiring someone and you need them to have tools, you need them to have the correct clothing, steel-toed boots. If they're eligible, they could come to the Workforce Center, apply. You indicate what they need in order to accept this position, and we could then help them buy those tools, buy those boots, so that they can be successful in accepting this position and working within this position. If there's someone who they don't have the skills necessary to do the job completely, but they're a good fit for your agency, but they need a little bit of training, our services then could utilize WIOA to pay for that training to help them be more successful in that position. So there are a lot of different ways they could utilize these services. That's just one example. Our services with WIOA, we have the adult program, and that's anyone 18 years or older. Again, the goal is employment. And I won't go through all the eligibility requirements just because sake of time. If you have questions, so please call the workforce centers. We also work with youth. We work with in-school youth, so those that are currently enrolled in school when they enroll in WIOA. And in-school youth is anyone between the ages of 14 and 21. Our out-of-school youth population, they're not currently enrolled in school, and they meet the definition, or they meet the age requirements of 16 to 24. Again, the goal for youth program would be that they exit the program employed or they've entered post-secondary education. Our dislocated worker program is probably the one that I'd like to focus the most time on, because that's really what's impacting due to COVID. So any individual that's been laid off or terminated due to no fault of their own, more than likely would have a good chance of being eligible as a dislocated worker. So all the folks that have currently been laid off, if they're interested in learning more about the program, I would recommend that you send them our way. There can be lots of things that during this time we could assist them with to meet their individual needs. It could also be that you say to the individual, hey, if you went and got this training when we reopen, you know, you might be better suited in this position. So we could be utilizing this time to provide them some additional training to better support your business needs in the future. We also have work experiences and on-the-job training programs through WIOA. Both of those programs really help the business as well as help the individual. The work experiences, those are for youth. So for those in-school youth or out-of-school youth, we do pay Department of Workforce Services. We pay 100% of the youth salary while they're engaged in the work experience with your business. And that individual could be engaged in that work experience for up to 400 hours. The on-the-job training, or OJT, that's really based on you as the business have an open position that you have not been able to fill, and you've just struggled filling it because there's no one in the community that really meets those specific needs or have those specific skills. We could set this position and post it as an OJT, where you're willing to provide some hands-on on-the-job training and an education component. If we do that, the Department of Workforce Services would pay up to 50% of that person's salary for a set period of time that's based on ONET or the specific field. So those are just some options. I know that they're maybe not applicable right now, but we wanted you to be aware of some of the services we offer at the workforce centers. The very last slide just really talks and gives you the link to all the locations, workforce center locations across the state. We just encourage you to reach out to us just to see if there's different ways we can help you during this difficult time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christina. Sorry, it took me a minute to get my mic unmuted there. We have a little more UI information for you, and to bring that to you, we have Chris Funk, the Unemployment Insurance Division's tax chief. She's going to talk to you about the assistance that's available to you both from the state of Wyoming and from the federal government. So, Chris.
Good morning. This is Chris Funk, and I run the unemployment tax program here for the state of Wyoming. We're going to give you a little bit of basic information about the unemployment tax program. I would suspect maybe we have some participants today that don't have a UI account, and so I'll give a little bit of basic information, and then I'm sure that the main information that people are looking for is how the CARES Act relates to employers. So we'll try to give you as much information as we can. Please know that we probably are not going to be able to answer every question that everyone has, but we will sure answer what we can, and we will provide information for you to reach out to us if you still have questions that were not answered. So here's just a little guide. This is something we put together that has some basic information, as well as the information about the additional plans that are being provided from the federal government. So we can go to the next one, Ty. Thank you. And the next one. Okay, so basically in the Unemployment Tax Division, what we do is we assist employers in determining if they need to have a state unemployment tax account. The majority of employers report a federal tax. They report federally every year through the IRS. But what we do is we help employers determine if they need to have a state unemployment tax account. That assists them with the ability to offer unemployment insurance for all of their employees. So what we do is on our online system, we have joint business registration that employers can fill out. That information goes to unemployment insurance as well as to workers' compensation. We look at all of that information, and based on the entity type of the business, information such as, do you have employees? Have you actually paid individuals? Are you actually working in Wyoming? We determine if you need to have an unemployment tax account here in Wyoming. Once the account is established, employers are required to report quarterly, and we give the option that you can report your unemployment insurance and workers' comp if it's applicable. You can report those separately or you can report those together. We offer an online system, which is our website. This was a new system we just went live with in May. It is located at wyui.wyo.gov. We offer online filing and online ACH debit payments at this time. We also still allow employers to file by paper because we realize that not everybody does have the technology to file online. Another thing that we do is in the Wyoming statutes, it's very specific about, there are specific parts for contractors and subcontractors. So we provide certificates of good standing. We have a website location. It's very easy to use. If you go onto that location, the http://cogs.state.wy.us, in most cases, you should be able to get a certificate right away. If your business has been open for at least a year and you are in good standing, you should be able to receive and be able to print a certificate right at that time. If you're not able to, it may be because either there's an issue with your account or you haven't had an account for at least a year. And you can always reach out to us and we'll take a look at it and let you know and provide whatever we can for you so that we're not holding you up on any jobs or anything that you may need that certificate for. So that was some basic information, but let's talk a little bit about the situation with the COVID-19. We've had a lot of questions. Ty, do you want to go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So we've had a lot of questions. As everyone knows that files quarterly or if they have someone file for them, the due date is always the last day of the month following the end of the quarter, unless it happens to fall on a weekend or a holiday, and then it's the next business day. We've had a lot of questions about whether or not we would move that due date. And because of the unemployment insurance and the workers' compensation statutes, we had to keep the due date at April 30th for several reasons. However, we do realize that we need to, make some exceptions or give you some accommodations if, in fact, because of COVID-19, you're not able to report and pay on time. Next slide, please. And the next slide, please. So we have individual companies, obviously, that are closed right now because of COVID-19, or they use payroll services. And if you're using someone like ADP that's in California or somewhere, something that I've also been made aware of is that some of these companies are really struggling with getting their processes done because they're in such lockdowns that their employees are not available to get these processes done. I have been told, ADP is the only one that I've been told they're doing everything they can to get the reports and payments to us on time. If in fact someone is not able to do that, we will definitely consider writing off any interest that accrues from Q1 of 2020 if it's related to a direct result of COVID-19. If you wish to request a write-off of any interest, we will give you some information on that. So on the next screen, you can send your request any of the following ways. So the DWS COVID-19 WCUI requests at wyo.gov, that actually goes to unemployment and workers' compensation. Mostly this is going to apply if you do your report and payment online. The system's not going to know because we could not move the due date, so the system's not going to know. So feel free to send an email to this address and you can make your request for UI or workers' comp, or both at that same address. You can also fax in a request for an interest waiver to 307-235-3278, or you can send it directly to me if you would like here in Casper. One thing we are trying to do is for those that file paper reports and send in payments that way, anything that we receive in person or postmark between, or is postmarked, between May 1st and July 31st, we will enter it into the system as timely. So you shouldn't even see any interest in those situations. It's mostly going to be the online that you would see interest that you will need to ask the waiver for. Next slide, please. So as we're going through with COVID and speaking to employers, one of the biggest areas that we've had some issues with is LLC members. So when we go to register, when an employer registers and we go to set the account up, the first thing that we do is we look at how that employer is registered with the Secretary of State's office. The IRS does not acknowledge LLC members, and we do have laws in Wyoming, in employment laws in Wyoming relative specifically to LLC members. So the easiest way for us to do that is to determine your entity type with the Secretary of State's office. So when your account is set up, if you are truly an LLC with the Secretary of State's office, you will be listed as an LLC for unemployment insurance purposes. The LLC members will need to elect coverage. When on the registration, it specifically asks, do the LLC members want coverage? If on the registration it states no, if the answer is no, given to us, there's no follow-up. But if the employer or the LLC member states that they want coverage, we send another form out. And the reason we started this is because we had a lot of employers stating yes, when in fact they really did not want the coverage and they would come back later. So we do that as a verification. So we send that back out. You need to make sure that if you want coverage for your LLC members, this has to come back in and it has to be approved. Unfortunately, reporting wages on someone that didn't elect does not automatically make them approved. And I know that we've heard that there are a lot of employers that have been misinformed from whoever is reporting for them that they are covered, but in fact, LLC members will not be covered for regular unemployment compensation. The other part of LLC is that businesses who report FUTA, their regular FUTA tax is 6.0% on the first $7,000. If you have a state unemployment tax account, you get a reduction of 5.4% on your FUTA. And that applies with LLC members as well. So if you're not reporting those LLC members and you're not electing, you're not getting that credit for FUTA that you should be. So if you have questions about that and you use a third party, I would definitely pose those questions to them and make sure that you have the coverage that you need for state unemployment, but that you're also getting the FUTA credit that you should be getting. Next slide, please. This is just a slide that shows the traditional unemployment insurance benefits, and the maximum weekly benefit here in Wyoming for 2020 is $508, and the regular unemployment maximum weeks is 26. Next slide, please. As it relates to employers, what is available to employees under the CARES Act? Next slide. So if an individual is self-employed, say for example, you're a sole proprietor and you have no employees, you would not have an unemployment tax account because you would be exempt from unemployment. Or if you're a contract worker, you're an independent contractor and you don't have any employees, you're not going to have an unemployment tax account unless you're an LLC and you've elected coverage, or you're a corporation and you're required to report your wages. Other types of not eligible for regular unemployment benefits could possibly be churches. Church or religious organizations are exempt for unemployment. So you could be an employee of a church or a religious organization. You could be agriculture. It has a maximum amount before it is required for unemployment. So if you're ag and you're under the required amount per quarter and you're not normally eligible for regular unemployment, you could be eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance. If you have a 501c3 and you have less than 4 employees, you could be eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance. And here is where LLC members not electing coverage because they're not eligible for regular unemployment, they would also fall under pandemic unemployment assistance. This is a new plan that is temporary that was a part of the CARES Act. It is retroactive to January 27th, and the start date is driven by when was your last date of work. This program will provide an additional 13 weeks of benefits for a total of up to 39 weeks of unemployment coverage. One of the other plans that I think people are familiar with is the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Plan. This is the additional $600 that will be added to each weekly payment. To get the $600, you have to be eligible for either regular unemployment or you have to be eligible for PUA. So you cannot collect the $600 without actually being eligible for the normal weekly benefit amount. Claimants do not have to apply for this separately. It's something that we have actually built into our system. It was new, and we put this in, I believe, last week or the week before. It was just last week. It's in effect from March 29th, which is when the governor actually signed the agreement with USDOL, and it will run through July 25th for eligible weeks. There is expanded eligibility for those laid off due to COVID-19, and it will include no work search requirements and no registration requirement. So there are a few restrictions of people that are not eligible for PUA. Those would be individuals who have the ability to telework with pay, because you're not really unemployed if you're able to still work from home and telework. If you're receiving paid sick leave or other paid leave benefits, or individuals receiving additional state benefits. I know the biggest question has been, and we had conversation again about this morning, of when PUA is going to be available. This was a whole new plan, and we've had to incorporate it into our new system that we just put in. Benefits started in June of 2018. We are still receiving federal guidance on this from USDOL, and it's taking some time to get it into the system. Our plan is to have it available next week. We have staff that are testing it and making sure, because the last thing that we want to do is make payments to people that we have to try to collect those funds back and, you know, put people into overpayment. So if in fact we don't have it available next week, at the latest, we will have it available approximately May 6th. When a claimant files, you will go on to wyui.wyo.gov, which is our normal claims filing system. And all of that information is available on our website at wyomingworkforce.org if you have questions about that. When a claimant first files a claim for PUA, they will be required to certify the amount of money that they made during the base period. Currently, the base period is all of 2019. So the amount of money that will be paid will be based on that certification of those payments. However, that individual within 21 days will be required to provide their 2019 federal tax return or some kind of tax document or some kind of documentation to show that they actually did make the amount of money that they certified that they were paid. If they do not provide that within 21 days, they will be moved back to the minimum, and they will be put into overpayment, and we will be required to collect those funds back from that claimant. Next slide, please. What does job attached mean? To be job attached to an employer, an employee must be returning to work under the following circumstances. 1, within 12 weeks from the effective date of their claim, full-time or for the same number of hours they worked in the base period, for an employer that paid at least 50% of their base period wages. This means that for all of the wages that they earned during the base period, you had to have been the employer that provided at least 50% of that. Employers can request an employee to be job attached for up to 12 weeks. Claimants can collect unemployment benefits without having to look for other work. Also, an employee can return to work and they can be paid 50% or less of their weekly benefit amount and still receive full UI benefits. If you pay them anywhere between 51% and 99% of their weekly benefit amount, then they would collect reduced benefits. If they return to work and they're receiving 100% or more of their weekly benefit amount, they will no longer be eligible for unemployment insurance. To remain eligible for unemployment benefits, federal law requires that those who have been placed on a temporary layoff must return to work if called back. Not returning to work when there is available work could be considered a refusal of work and could potentially disqualify claimants from receiving unemployment insurance benefits. We have heard situations where employers have contacted us and stated that they have tried to hire employees back and the employees have refused. In those circumstances, please contact our agency right away. It's very important that we have that information because if it's considered a refusal of work, that's very important, and we need to make sure that they are, potentially disqualified for receiving future benefits. If you have any questions, we have a helpline. I admit it's been quite busy lately. With all of the claims that we've had coming in, our helpline has had a busy signal at times, but normally it's not an issue. So if you ever have questions about your account or anything that you have, if you're having issues with WYUI or anything that you have, as far as an employer, you can always dial 307-235-3217. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. We've already got a lot of questions coming in. We're going to get to those in a little bit here. If you've asked a question, we'll try to get those answered here live. If we don't get to your questions, we will answer those questions and provide those to you. We'll email those out to you as well as post those on the website with the recording. They may be a little later than the recording gets up there, but we will answer those questions and get them to you. Before we get to those questions though, we have Karen Godman, who's our director of Wyoming OSHA, to bring you some important information about keeping yourself and your employees safe during this pandemic. So I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
All right, thank you, Ty. Good morning, my name is Karen Godman. I am the director of Wyoming OSHA, and I just wanted to go over a few things. We have a lot of resources on our website that are available to you, but I wanted to kind of give some highlights. OSHA does not have a specific standard for COVID, but there is guidance for preparing workplaces for COVID, and that guidance is located on our website. But this basically outlines basic steps that an employer should take, and that includes classifying risk and implementing control strategies. These strategies include implementing what's called the hierarchy of controls as possible. So again, there isn't a specific standard, but employers are expected to classify risk to their employees. There is that document on our website, but basically there are 4 classifications for risk. There's very high, medium, and low. It's going to depend on the industry that you're in and your interaction with people. And that's how an employer should take a look at their practices and their employees to classify their risk and then take those measures to protect them. Right now, we're hearing a lot about the use of respirators and masks. I want to share that that's called personal protective equipment, and that's the last thing that OSHA is going to want you to do. There are other controls in this hierarchy of controls that you can use, like implementing engineering controls, which would be, for instance, plastic shields in grocery stores for clerks that are checking people out, and various things like that. There are administrative controls, which would include minimizing the contact your employees have with the public, which could be teleworking, which could be having meetings via Zoom instead of in person. things like that. So those are administrative controls that you can also look at. And then you can look at using personal protective equipment. But I just want to highlight that a little bit because you're hearing a lot about personal protective equipment, which is good, but there are other things that you can put in place and need to as an employer to evaluate risk and protect your employees. So with that, I know this is very quick. We do have a lot of resources on our website, and we're also available to talk to you and answer questions. That does not mean that you're getting an inspection. That means that we're work with you through our consultation department to be able to answer any questions that you have as an employer. Also, I just want to highlight that if you have concerns, you can file a complaint. That's always your right. And that an employer cannot retaliate against an employee who has health and safety concerns. So please know that we are available to answer questions, and we do have a multitude of resources on our website. Please feel free to contact us if you have any questions or concerns. So thank you for this opportunity, Ty.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you all for presenting this. Thank you folks for tuning in to have your questions answered. We're going to get to those questions here now. Once again, let me let you know that if we don't get to your question here in this live presentation, we will have those answered and emailed back to you as well as posted on the website. So I'm going to ask these questions, and I may not have the right person to send them to. So if you guys want to just jump in and answer these questions when I ask them, go right ahead. So the first question is, will the pandemic UI benefits go against my employer UI rate in the future? Chris, I think that's for you.
It is. I'm sure this is a very hot topic. So currently, our statutes do not accommodate non-charging the benefits from the pandemic. So our Director Cooley, is working very closely with the Attorney General's office and with the legislature for potential statute change, because that is what it's going to require. That is not finalized yet, but I do know that she has that in the works so that we can accommodate those charges that are relative to benefits that are specifically COVID related according to the guidelines of what was provided to us by USDOL. But right now unfortunately it's not there, but we are definitely working on that.
Thank you, Chris. Next question. I work for a reimbursable employer. I have heard that some states are only charging reimbursable employers 50% for unemployment during this time. Is that the case with Wyoming? If so, is it 50% of the 2/3 paid normally, or is it 50% of the 2/3 plus the extra 600? Also, will we be charged for just the first 26 weeks of the extension time as well?
Okay, so there's a lot of, this is Chris again, there's a lot of different pieces to that. So reimbursable employers, the actual charges are for a reimbursable employer, whatever the normal regular unemployment compensation payments are what is passed on to the employer. At this point, that is exactly what's going to happen. The 600 will not, because it is part of an additional federal plan, and those are federal dollars that were provided to us. And then any extended benefits also will not. As far as it relates to the normal regular unemployment up to the weekly benefit amount, we signed everything on the plan from the CARES Act. So this is one of the pieces. We have not yet received the guidance on how we are actually going to handle this. But from what the plan had said is that employers would be reimbursed 50% of what was actually charged to them. I'm sure that we will keep you up to date on the information that we receive, and I will make sure that our PR group has that published as soon as we have the information as to how that actually is going to take place.
This question has to do with unemployment claims. This person says, my staff was furloughed in March and now I've received PPP money to bring them back. What should they do unemployment wise? I thought I saw something about leaving their claim open while I pay them and just not sending a claim for those weeks.
So truly this is Chris again. So truly what your employees should do is they can leave the claim open, and what they need to do is weekly just report the payments that you have made to them. And then it will go through the process of what we talked about before of what percentage of their weekly benefit amount are they being paid by you now. So if you're back to paying 100% of their weekly benefit amount, then they will no longer be eligible for unemployment. But that will all be based on what their individual weekly benefit amount is and how much you pay them.
Excellent, thank you. If I plan on reopening in May, when and if orders are lifted, can employees still apply for pandemic unemployment March through May when we were closed?
So if those individuals have not already filed a claim, I would definitely suggest that they get their claim filed. If they haven't filed and they go back to work, the time period that they were off is what is going to be important. But in processing the claim, it's really important to get that claim in as soon as possible so that we can get it processed and we can get them paid timely and get that all worked out before they get back to work.
Excellent. If I have employees who work for my business and have a second job, can they apply for pandemic unemployment if I am closed, but their other job is open?
So those are really a case-by-case basis. I would suggest that if they have any pay or any hours that were reduced or removed because of COVID-19, they should be filing a claim. But what's going to happen is it's individualized, so it depends on, what percentage of their base period wages were applicable to your business and the part-time job. It's really hard to say how that would work out, but they would have to take a look. But the best thing to do is file the claim and work with the adjudicators to determine what they might be eligible for.
Thank you. How can we request a change in LLC member UI status?
So I just looked on the website. We have an actual document that we can have put on the website. I'm not seeing it. We used to have it on there, but we will get it out there after this is over. There will be a form out there that you can submit your information, and you'll need to disclose all of your LLC members and whether or not they each individually want coverage, because we do have some employers that want coverage for one of the members but not the others. So once we get that out there, all you have to do is fill that information out. If you want to use the same information provided in this webinar for interest waivers, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want to send that in either through the email or the fax or the address that was provided, that would be perfect. It needs to come to me anyway, so feel free to do that.
Thank you, Chris. Do owners qualify for unemployment benefits until things pick up?
Okay, so the ownership depends on what type of entity you have. If your entity is a corporation, as a corporation, you should already have an unemployment tax account and you should be reporting your corporate officer wages. In those cases, as an owner, those wages would have been reported and you would have already qualified through regular unemployment. If you're an LLC through the Secretary of State's office, you would need to have had elected coverage. Like we discussed earlier, if you elected coverage, you should qualify under regular unemployment. If you did not elect coverage, then you would fall under the PUA. If you're a sole proprietor or a partner, you would need to qualify under PUA.
Thank you. Do you have info on the recent approval of employers now need to provide info about unemployment availability to EEs you separate from employment? So
we actually sent a letter, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we sent a letter to all active employers notifying them about the Families First Response Act and informed them that they needed to send this letter out to all of their employees or provide it to all employees in the future when they lay them off. If you did not get a copy of that letter, we'll put that on the website too. Ty, I'll get that to you as well, because this is something you're going to have to do going forward. I assume this is what you're talking about in this question, and I think this is probably it. So I'll get this to you and we'll put it out on the website. So if they did not get the letter that we sent, or if they need more copies or whatever, we can just keep it on the website because they're going to have that going forward.
Thank you. And I think that answers the next question we have as well. Is there a required unemployment document employers must provide to employees at the time of a layoff? And that is the same question. That's that document you're talking about, right, Chris?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So this person asks, instead of laying off, we cut hours so our employees filed claims. One of them was denied over the phone because he made too much money, but his rate is $18 an hour. What information can we as the employer provide you to ensure our employees receive UI?
So the process is that an individual files a claim, and the first thing that our benefits section will do will be to look to see if they have wages available in the base period, and they'll look to see what the reason for the separation is. So there's two different parts of it. It's what was the reason for the separation, and are they monetarily eligible? As long as you have reported the wages, there shouldn't be a situation where they cannot collect benefits because of anything that you did. I know we've had some employers reach out, and I've been very impressed with how employers have been so supportive of their employees as they're filing for unemployment. But there's nothing that the employer has done wrong. As long as you've reported the wages to us, you've done your part. Now, if there's an individual issue with their claim, say having to do with a past claim, or if they do have a second job or they have other income that's interfering with that, that would be a case-by-case basis. And I would encourage that claimant to reach out to our benefits section and find out what the exact issue is with their claim.
Thank you. We only have a couple more minutes. We're going to go a little bit over the 11 o'clock time frame. If you can't stick around for the extra time, I know everybody's busy, but those of you out there watching, if you can't go over, please know we will have this recorded and we'll post it on our website, and we'll also send you all the questions and answers. We're not going to be able to get to all the questions we've got, but we will answer those, and we'll send those out to you when this is over. The next question says, we're a corporation that opened in 1988. Our agency has 2 owners and 1 full-time employee. We survive on commissions that come from cruises, tour companies, hotels, car rentals. Most likely will not have any income coming in after the end of May. We're rebooking clients in 2021 as a lot of companies have canceled the tours and cruises available. Can we pay our employees even if we cannot open up yet? Our bank says we cannot pay them until they return to work.
So we have had this question come up, and basically, if they're your employee and you're compensating them when you're not able to be open, basically that's the same as paid leave, and it is reportable for unemployment, but it's just considered a benefit. And I would check with your bank. Now, if it has to do with an SBA loan or something where there were guidelines that you were given about how you can use that information, I would that's not in the question here, but we've had employers contacting us about SBA loan guidelines, and that's really out of our realm. But I would definitely check back with the SBA, or if you acquired your loan through a lending institution, I would definitely reach out with them, because I have heard that there's very specific guidelines of what you can use that pay for and when you can use it and when you have to use it by. So definitely, if you have situations, we've had some other employers reach out to us and ask if they can for example, they need to use their loan money up or grant money up by a certain time, you know, we can work with you. Although we require payments quarterly, we are making exceptions if an employer wants to pay monthly. We can keep it as a credit on your account. If you're needing to do that to account for that, you know, just reach out to us and we will work something out with you.
Thank you. If I have an employee who is refusing to come to work saying she's sick but won't supply a doctor's note and now she's filed for unemployment, how do I go about my unemployment claim? We have offered the hours and it seems she just doesn't want to come in.
So if you have your own personnel rules, I would definitely go back to that. But if you have a situation with a claim, on our website, there is a location, and I think Ty can probably provide that later. We talked about this yesterday. We do have a location for reporting fraud, and you can absolutely go through the website and report that, or you can just reach out to our agency and notify us. We have had a couple of employers that have notified us about employees that are refusing to come back to work, and you can absolutely get that information to us either way.
Thank you. And yeah, we will include that web address in the questions that we email back with when we answer this question. That report of fraud is actually right on the very front page of our website at wyomingworkforce.org. It's over in the sidebar on the right. If you scroll down a little bit, get below the pandemic, the COVID information, and we have that fraud reporting right there. Next question says, does the PUA look at the base period? I have employees who wouldn't qualify, but we're closed.
So I would suggest that they go ahead and file a claim and report the information. As I said earlier, they will have to certify how much they've been paid. I would suggest they go ahead. There's a minimum, and from what I understand, everyone will be paid the minimum, and as if they had income. But the best thing to do is to make sure that you get that claim in. I can't tell you specifically how each claim would go, but that is the best thing to do is file the claim and provide the information, and they can work with the adjudicator to determine whether or not they're eligible for anything.
Thank you. What is the best way to contact the unemployment office if money reported as dispersed to an employee is more than the amount the employee received for an unemployment benefit? There has been no luck getting through to the unemployment office when calling.
So I would guess that someone received an initial determination and the amount was more than what they were actually paid. So we need to get that discrepancy fixed. Absolutely. I would call the 307-235-3217. If you're not able to get through there, you can definitely, I'll put my number out there. It's 307-235-3203, and we will get that fixed for you. We had some issues with the phone lines, and we have been working with the phone company, and it seems to be a little bit better. So dial that helpline number, but if you don't get through, you can always reach out to me as well.
Thank you all for coming on and answering these questions for these folks. And I want to thank everybody who tuned in. Thank you for joining us and getting your questions and letting us know what's on your mind. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. We will, like I said, we'll answer all the questions. There are a bunch we didn't get to, so we'll answer all those questions offline and provide that document. We'll email that back to you at the address that you provided when you registered. We'll also post that on our website. Go to wyomingworkforce.org, and anywhere in that coronavirus information area, you'll find the information for how to watch the recording of this video, as well as find the answers to those. Keep in mind, there are also quite a few question and answer frequently asked questions pages out there on our website. Feel free to look at those. If you have questions that don't show up on those, send us a message and we may add those to it. There are going to be a lot more questions and answers added with these 2 town halls that we've had. Thank you for joining us. Keep an eye on that wyomingworkforce.org website for any updates on the PUA and the PEUC when those get added, and any other information that we have. We also post our press releases out there, so anything that has to do with businesses, we'll get that out there and hopefully provide that to you. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.